Hello there, BookTube. My name is Daniel. Welcome back to my channel, Guilty Feet. Miss. I've got no rhythm. And today I'm going to do something I don't want to do, which is going to be a book review of a single book, because my Friday reads is going to be a bit light this week, because I'm still reading the George Saunders book about ponds and swimming, about the Russian short stories. So far, excellent, but it means I haven't got a whole lot of things to recap. But I did finish last week, Assembly by Natasha Brown, and I have thoughts. Mostly good. But there's been a lot of praise for this as a debut novel, and it's not a novel. It's a book of 100 pages written in vignettes. It is, very lightweight, with some great ideas, and I want to discuss some of the great things in it. Maybe some of them be a little spoilery, but I also want to talk about what I found disappointing. What we know about Natasha Brown is that she has a high-flying career in the city in finance, Oxbridge educated, I believe, went to work at Goldman Sachs, and published some work which won a prize, and now she's got to publish this book. It's intersectional. It's about being a woman. It's about being a person of color in the city. About racism. About misogyny. About how they both overlap and intersect, and that's great. But this was pitched, and before reading it, I'm told this is a story of a woman of color working in the city with a white boyfriend and planning to go and spend a weekend with her boyfriend's well-to-do parents in their country house, as if there was some kind of plot, and that was going to be it. There isn't. That's as much of that plot that you get. There is a boyfriend. He is white. There are parents. They're going to go there for the weekend, and that's about it. Nothing is in that respect is fleshed out at all. What we get, as I say, are little vignettes, little spotlights on this person's life. The narrator, who is never named, is chosen out of all the people in her financial institution, or whether a bank or wherever it is that she works. It's high-flying, well-paid city job. She's the one who has to go to schools and talk about careers in finance, and the implication is because she's a woman, because she's a person of color. There's some awkward pause in some big meeting where she's again the only person of color in the meeting with a bunch of white blokes, and no one's brought the coffee, and there's no one sort of, there's no point at which everyone turns and looks at her, but and I think it's very cleverly stated that that's not what happens, and yet in her head it's as if the whole world has turned and looked at her, and she gets up and makes the coffee, and I think she's very smart about not implicating everyone else, but implicating herself as that perpetuator of her role. There are other times where some people are cast as sort of cartoonish villains, and I think that's where it's less successful. I thought that particular scene where it's very clear that no one is imposing this upon her except herself, but that in itself may be as a result of things that are said and not said. I thought that was very subtle and very well done, and that's why there's I wanted so much more, because that's such a beautiful scene. And then, as I say, there's this cartoonish villain who she is co-promoted with to co-lead a project, and he makes sort of crass remarks about how things are a bit easier for her because she's the token person of color, and again he's not being particularly overtly racist. He's not a sort of terrible Nazi, but he is just a deeply unpleasant, microaggressive twerp, and say cartoonish in a way that is unfortunate, because there was so much subtlety in other places. One of the things that I found terribly millennial about this is the way names are dropped to signify things in lieu of actually explaining what you mean. And this is kind of a millennial thing that she talks about early on in her career, going to work in a Primark blouse, wearing M&S slacks, and we as readers must immediately understand the significance of a Primark blouse and M&S slacks, and where that places you socially and class-wise. I can't imagine what an American reading this would get from a Primark blouse. Is that the same as a blouse from Target? I'm not sure that's an exact equivalent. People going in their first jobs in the city, would they buy their top from Target? Would that be a bad thing if they did? I don't know. Is it a bad thing if you buy it from Primark? No, not at all. But there's some class thing here which we're supposed to glean from just the dropping in of those names, which I found a little lazy. She's not doing the work. She's done, and this is my sense of the whole thing. This is a novel in PowerPoint. It's a novel in bullet form rather than actual novel itself. I say frustrating because some of it is great. So this next part may be a bit of a spoiler, so feel free to jump ahead to the end, go watch another video. I think one of the best parts of this is this person of colour, a woman of colour, and the just tiredness of her life and her role and the expectations that may be placed upon her or that she's placing upon herself. Both are valid and exhausting. And she is diagnosed with, I believe, a malignant cancer and is refusing treatment because she's just so tired of life and exhausted by it. And that's a great idea to build a novel around. And then when you add in the white boyfriend who seems to be sort of performing this interracial relationship as part of his, being in London and being a millennial, and having to deal with his parents, having to deal with the colleagues. I think there could have been a great novel here, and it seems that the author just didn't really have time to write it, or the energy, or could be bothered, or it will be okay. I'll just leave it in bullets, and you can read it off the screen. That kind of thing. And it's on the one hand, it feels a bit millennial that it's rushed out in that way. On the other hand, there are other people who are actually bothering to write novels, and very rare that I would tell people they haven't written enough. Usually I'm saying this could have done with 50, 150, 250 pages fewer. And this, I think, as I say, is just not fleshed out. But I want to give you a couple of examples of those signifiers that are dropped in, one of which went right over my head, and one of which I think will probably go over everyone else's head except mine. And I'll read them both to you, and you tell me what you think. In the morning, I watched as their son sat on the edge of his bed and squeezed a sugar-coated tablet from a blister pack. He stared down at the white speck in his hand until finally, with needless, performative resolve, he threw his head back and clasped hand over mouth until all was swallowed. Citalopram, 5 milligrams, 1 per day or as directed by your doctor. Now, I had no idea what citalopram was. I'm not sure if we needed that name dropped in here, because I think I probably worked out that it was some kind of anti-anxiety. We're learning something about this white, upper middle class, spoiled, privileged male that is her boyfriend. But throwing in that brand name, citalopram, and I'll put it to you. Do you all know what citalopram is? That a signifier for you? Because it wasn't for me. And then I asked my wife, am I supposed to know what citalopram is? Could I have worked it out without mentioning that? The fact that he stared down the white speck in his hand, a sugar-coated tablet from a blister pack, stared down the white speck in his hand. So he's taking some kind of pill, and he's doing it with needless performative result, which are beautiful. I love that idea that he's taking his pill in front of her with performative resolve. I mean, there's such ennui, so hard to be open. I thought that's a beautiful turn of phrase. And then this throwing in citalopram, I didn't know what citalopram was. I felt like I was meant to, and I didn't get it. And there's another name thrown out a bit later, which I want to read you. And this is talking about, you'll get it. I went to school with this boy, haven't seen him since year 6, but I remember his parents used to make him stand at a desk in their front room to do homework each evening. As soon as he got in, no food, drinks, or bathroom breaks, just stand there and work. His mother bragged about it at the school gate. He even told me, the way kids tell things sometimes, that he'd wet himself one night, stood there. And his mother made him stay, wet trousers cooling, sticking to his legs, until all the homework was complete. He got a scholarship to Haberdasher's Asks. His well-thumbed brochure boasted a 20% Oxbridge acceptance rate. He got his scholarship to Haberdasher's Asks. Anybody here familiar with Haberdasher's Asks? It's a school. 20% Oxbridge acceptance rate is down from where it was in my day, which I think it was at least 30%. Interesting to note about Haberdashers' Asks, which is, as I say, my alma mater. I was there for 11 years. Also, Sacha Baron Cohen, Matt Lucas, David Baddiel, and at least one other well-known BookTube contributor. Interesting about Haberdashers' Asks is they've recently changed their name from Haberdashers' Asks to Haberdashers' Boys' School, because Sir Robert Ask, who left the original legacy to the Haberdashers Guild, was found to have some relationship, and I don't know how much, but something to do with slave trade, and his name has been dropped. So the idea that this is a school that you would wet yourself to get into is news to me, but eye-opening. But I just don't think is it a signifier for anyone else? Is anyone aware, Harrow or Eton or a school like that maybe doesn't have scholarships? Maybe you only buy your way into their schools. I don't know. It was just a funny thing that jumped out at me, that my school was suddenly mentioned as this place, this aspirational place for underprivileged children to attend. Maybe, but I'm not sure that, again, that will translate to anywhere else in the world or anywhere outside of this apartment. The idea of it as a novel breaks down even further as it goes along, and it's a short thing, it's 100 pages, breaks down almost completely until we get sort of prose poetry, and this is all about the differences between being white and black, and then talk about historical selves. And I'm thinking, I understand what this is aiming for, and I'm there for it. I think if you're going to write a novel, write a novel maybe, but that might be a bit prescriptive. And I'm thinking, haven't I seen this? And I've done this in something which was also transgressive in its form and not anything like a novel, but was genuinely, for me, revelatory and beautiful and poetic and intersectionally challenging. And that was Claudia Rankine's Citizen, which I highly recommend if you haven't read it. It's a beautiful work of prose poetry with sections on Hurricane Katrina and a whole long, absolutely mind-blowing section about Serena Williams and the way she's been treated by the press. Looking forward to the King Richard movie. I think it's going to be great. This was absolutely stunning and gets my highest recommendation. And this seems to be a little bit derivative. And then, sure enough, at the end, there's an acknowledgement that this whole page, the bit that I just referenced, said, well, isn't that just Claudia Rankine's Citizen, but in bullet form? And actually in the acknowledgements, so yes, to learn more about this, see Citizen, an American Lyric by Claudia Rankine. Lightweight, underwhelming, good, but write the book and then we'll review that. This, I think, is the thing you send to to your agent, your ideas for a book or a presentation about the book that you one day hope to write. Assembly by Natasha Brown. I think I've been harsher than I intended, because it was good and it's 100 pages, and I understand why people like being able to get in and out of a new author in 100 pages and say, read that, next. But that's kind of my feelings on it. Read that, not next. Where's the book? Where's the rest of it? Anyway, thank you. Bye.